The F-4 Phantom II is a versatile tactical fighter. It can be used as a fighter bomber, interceptor, or as an air superiority fighter. To gain and maintain air superiority is, in part, the mission of the Tactical Air Command. F-4 pilots assigned the specific mission of seeking out and destroying enemy aircraft in the air and on the ground must understand and be proficient in aerial combat maneuvering. Air-to-air combat is a swift and deadly game. Victory or defeat may be decided in only a few seconds. Mission success, and usually your life, depend upon a thorough knowledge of your weapons and weapon system, as well as those of the enemy. Pilots assigned combat duty will be exposed constantly to situations where only the most skillful maneuvering, teamwork, and timely application of basic air combat tactics will enable them to emerge victorious. Flying the F-4 in air combat tactics training, as well as in combat itself, demands an ability to maneuver the aircraft at maximum performance. To do this, the pilot must have an understanding of adverse yaw and dihedral effect. Adverse yaw is defined as yaw that is opposite to the desired direction of turn. At subsonic speeds and high angles of attack, rudder must be used in the F-4 to offset this yaw. This yawing moment is caused in part by the aileron on the top wing, left wing in a right turn, being deflected down and causing more drag than the spoilers on the low wing, because these spoilers are operating in a lower pressure area. One example of dihedral effect, and perhaps the easiest to understand, is the characteristic of any swept-wing aircraft to obtain more lift from a wing that is straightened out into the relative wind. The opposite wing is, in effect, swept further back. For this reason, the F-4 can be rolled with rudder. When performing a hard turn, as angle of attack begins to increase, the pilot may be tempted to tighten the turn by using more aileron. This adds to the undesirable condition, and if these improper controls are held, a snap roll-away from the desired turn may result. This could be disastrous in combat. To prevent a snap roll or post-stall gyration, the pilot must, when subsonic at high angles of attack, use rudder to control roll rate and bank, hold the ailerons neutral, and control turn rate with backstick pressure. Caution: develop a feel for the rudders. Do not arbitrarily jam full rudder in the direction of turn, or dihedral effect will cause a roll in the direction of applied rudder. With proper training, the F-4 pilot will have no trouble in developing a feel for his aircraft and flying it to maximum performance. Remember, you are flying the airplane, not riding it. The basic fighting unit is the two-ship element. It is much more maneuverable than a flight of four. The leader must, however, spend a great deal of his time clearing the wingman rather than looking for potential targets. When the element is used as a part of a flight of four, the wingman flies a position 1,000 to 3,000 feet out from the lead, depending on altitude, and from line abreast to 20 degrees back. Flying this position, the wingman can cover the leader's 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock area through the rear hemisphere, his primary area of responsibility. During turns, the wingman maneuvers in the horizontal and vertical planes. By playing the outside as well as the inside of the turn, the wingman can easily maintain position, conserve energy, and provide visual coverage in the rear hemisphere. When on patrol, the wingman stays well forward in easy view of the leader. He maintains coverage in the rear hemisphere while the leader searches for the enemy. The distance between aircraft may be increased at higher altitudes due to increased enemy missile performance. This increased separation extends visual coverage in the rear hemisphere, moving the blind spot farther out. Upon initial contact with the enemy, the wingman must move to the maximum performance maneuvering envelope. The size and shape of this envelope varies, but generally it is a cone 60 degrees to 90 degrees from the leader and 1,000 to 1,500 feet back. These distances and angles may vary as long as the wingman is able to provide mutual support and visual coverage during violent maneuvers. The primary duty of the wingman while flying in the maximum performance maneuvering envelope is to provide coverage in the rear. To maintain position and to perform his duties, the wingman will need a degree of skill and proficiency which is gained only through practice. When flying in the maximum performance maneuvering envelope, the wingman provides the leader with a spare weapon system, should his own malfunction.
My gun's jammed. Take him, too.
Should this occur, the wingman moves forward, assumes the lead, and maintains whatever advantage the leader may have had. If at any time the wingman cannot perform his duties, he should notify his leader immediately. The offensive potential of the two-ship flight is greatly enhanced when it is used as part of the basic combat patrol formation. This is a four-ship flight comprised of two mutually supporting elements. In this formation, the leader plans the attack and engages the enemy. The number 3 man, or element leader, supports the flight leader and assists in the attack. The number 2 and 4 men support their respective leaders and cover the vulnerable 6 o'clock areas. Since the element leader functions as alternate flight leader as well as leader of his own element, he is selected for his demonstrated leadership, ability, and aggressiveness. The supporting element is flown 3 to 9,000 feet out from the leader and 0 to 5,000 feet up. These distances will depend upon altitude, configuration, and mission requirements. This is because of decreased enemy missile performance in denser air and the difficulty in seeing camouflaged aircraft at low altitudes. Visual contact must be maintained. While on patrol, the element leader may maneuver his element from a position of line abreast to a maximum of 10 degrees back. During turns, the element maintains this position by energy-altitude trade-offs. Generally, this type of maneuvering will require one crossover for every 90 degrees of turn. The leader will usually turn 90 degrees or in 90-degree increments. If not, he'll inform the element leader so that he may plan his crossover so as to be in correct formation position when the leader rolls out. There are 2 points that deserve special emphasis. First, wherever possible, the supporting element is flown down sun. Second, great care must be taken when crossing over in the fluid 4 formation to prevent mid-air collision during the brief periods of reduced visual contact. Correct employment of visual search techniques by each member of the flight will provide good detection rates at ranges of 3 miles or more in the rear hemisphere. The flight leader searches the forward hemisphere from 15 degrees above the horizon downward. The lead also makes casual checks of his element and its rear area. The element leader, in addition to maintaining his position, searches the forward hemisphere from 10 degrees below the horizon upward. The right wingman searches the area from the flight leader's 9 o'clock position to the rear as far as he can see. The left wingman searches the area from the support leader's 3 o'clock position to his rear as far as he can see. The use of small check turns will improve the 6 o'clock coverage by displacing the blind spot from side to side. Laxity in performing scan responsibilities cannot be tolerated. This is equally true in regard to radar search. Radar coverage in a flight of 4 is improved when each flight member searches a definite area with the minimum overlap. The lead aircraft selects 1-bar scan, radar mode, 50-mile scope, and adjusts the antenna elevation so that approximately half-inch ground return appears at the top of the scope. This radar search pattern supplements the leader's visual search area. The rear seat pilot maintains constant radar surveillance of his area. The number 3 man or supporting element lead selects 3-bar scan, radar mode, 50-mile scope, and adjusts the antenna to obtain half-inch of ground return on the lowest sweep. He then selects a 1-bar scan, thus automatically raising the antenna to the desired elevation. This radar search pattern supplements the element lead's visual search area. The number 3 rear seat pilot, like the lead rear seat pilot, concentrates exclusively on radar scan. The number 2 man selects 1-bar scan, radar mode, 25-mile scope, and adjusts the antenna so that half-inch of ground return appears at the top of the scope and maintains that search position. While the number 2 aircraft commander is scanning his visual search area, the rear seat pilot divides his time evenly between the radar and a visual scan of the same area scanned by his aircraft commander. The number 4 man selects 1-bar scan, radar mode, scope, and adjusts the elevation strobe to 8 degrees up. He then selects 3-bar scan for search. The rear seat pilot in the number 4 aircraft, like the number 2 rear seat pilot, divides his time evenly between visual scan and radar scan. The number 4 aircraft radar scan area combined with the number 2 radar scan area provides a thorough long-range detection capability in the forward hemisphere when combined with the visual and radar scan of the lead and supporting element. It can be said that the air battle consists of 3 phases: acquisition, maneuvering, and terminal. Acquisition. You must find the enemy to engage him. Maneuvering. You must outmaneuver the enemy to destroy him. Terminal. You must know your weapons and weapon system to hit him. The F-4 has an excellent long-range air intercept radar. If properly used, this radar can be a decisive factor in the air battle. With this long-range detection capability, it is probable that contact will occur in the forward quadrant prior to visual contact. The problem of visual identification of bogies must receive special attention. Proper interpretation of radar returns can provide valuable information at sufficient range and time to allow the attackers to maneuver to gain tactical advantage prior to visual contact. When equipped with all aspect missiles and in a front hemisphere attack, separate the elements to achieve a first pass ID and missile launch. A good rule of thumb to determine minimum contact range necessary to gain the separation for attack is approximately 3 times optimum missile range. For example, if optimum missile range is 5 miles, then minimum contact range is 15 miles. If contact is made at sufficient range, the ID element should make a descending acceleration using afterburner to 1.2 Mach. The launch element executes a barrel roll or S maneuver to obtain desired separation in minimum time. While gaining separation, the ID element wingman should make a thorough radar search of the area for other aircraft that could be a threat. The ID element lead maintains radar contact and maneuvers for a collision course. After allowing the ID element to gain the desired separation, the launch element also accelerates to 1.2 Mach and maintains a target lock-on while keeping visual contact with the ID element. As soon as visual ID can be made, the ID element lead relays to the launch element lead the identification of the target aircraft, and, if it is enemy, clears him to fire.
MiGs, 21s. No missiles on board. Clear to fire, clear to fire.
If the ID element is undetected passing below the enemy, or if the enemy fails to maneuver, the ID element should employ basic fighter maneuvers to re-attack or support the launch element. If, however, the ID element is detected and the enemy maneuvers against it, they may employ counter-maneuvers against the enemy or continue a straight-ahead run-out, while the friendly launch element sandwiches the enemy. When the ID is made and clearance to fire received, the launch element executes either a front or a rear hemisphere attack, depending on the enemy's actions. Both elements then engage the enemy, supporting each other until the enemy is destroyed. When attacking from a beam, the separation required is less, and it is easier to attain. On the initial visual identification pass, the ID element may fire if identification can be made soon enough. If not, he turns 180 degrees from the target's heading and maneuvers for a follow-up attack. The turn will put him out of the target area and allow the launch element a shot as they follow and maneuver for a missile or a gun attack. The two elements then fight as a team until the enemy is destroyed. In a stern attack, you must consider the range to target, fuel required to close, and your heading. A stern chase is useless if bingo will occur before identification or firing range. A stern approach, however, is the best position for surprise in a missile or gun attack. The elements in a stern attack maneuver so as to keep pressure on the enemy at all times and support each other until the enemy is destroyed. When operating as a lone element and attacking a flight of 4, make either a beam attack or a stern attack, since identification and re-attack are the most difficult from head-on. Be very careful to maintain element integrity when attacking as a lone element, since look back from the F-4 is poor. After radar acquisition and initial attack, competence in basic fighter maneuvers is essential in destroying the enemy with either a missile or gun. The high-speed yo-yo is a good maneuver to maintain the advantage when on the attack. Its purpose is to maintain nose-tail separation. As you recognize an overshoot coming up, keep your G's on while reducing some of your bank. Slide high and inside the defender's turn. This will reduce your forward velocity while maintaining nose-tail separation. Watch your opponent and slide back down on the attack. Don't get the nose too low, or you may be forced out the bottom. The low-speed yo-yo is another good attack maneuver in the F-4. Lower the nose and establish your cutoff while nose low. Light the afterburner and accelerate to Mach 1.1 or more. Terminate afterburner and begin pull-up. When the nose is above the horizon, relight afterburner and slide up toward the defender's 6 o'clock. As you slide into your opponent's lethal cone, be prepared to perform a follow-up high-speed yo-yo. The barrel roll attack is an excellent offensive maneuver for a missile or gun attack. When the defender is turning into you while you are still at long range, 8,000 feet or more, and generating angle off, 40 degrees or more, begin the maneuver from low and inside the defender's turn. Play the rate of roll for the desired effect, depending on the range and rate of the defender's turn. If the defender is turning right, you roll to the left, and vice versa. Backstick and rudder is used throughout the entire maneuver to hold the nose in the desired position. Upon completion of the roll, you will find your angle off diminished and the range reduced. If G-load permits, fire a missile when in range. Press the attack, and if need be, execute another barrel roll attack or perform a high-speed yo-yo. While the fighter pilot and his aircraft comprise an offensive weapon, the possibility is strong that the first contact with the enemy will be in the rear hemisphere. This is due in part to the enemy's GCI capability. Thus, it is imperative that you have a thorough knowledge of both offensive and defensive maneuvers. The basic defensive maneuver is the defensive turn. This is a hard turn performed to prevent an opponent from achieving a launch or firing position. With this maneuver, the defender can diminish the lethal envelope and improve his position by rotating his cone of vulnerability away from the attacker. If the attack is discovered closer in, a break may be necessary. This is a maximum performance turn into the attack to destroy the enemy's tracking solution and force him to overshoot. The effect is gained in the first 45 to 60 degrees of turn. If the attacker does not yo-yo and overshoots, reverse, and if you're lined up, take a quick shot at him. If you are not lined up, get him out of phase and dive for separation. If an attacker has been forced to overshoot, another maneuver is the scissors. As the MiG overshoots, make a nose-high reversal and continue with a series of turn reversals. This will rotate your lethal cone away from the attacker and force him again to cross your flight path and eventually to your 12 o'clock position. The scissors is an effort to gain an offensive position. The advantage, however, lies with the aircraft having the shorter turn radius and the lower airspeed. For this reason, the scissors is not considered a good maneuver against the lighter, more maneuverable MiG series aircraft. After the first couple of reversals, if you cannot get a shot, watch the MiG. Get him out of phase with you, and when he cannot see you, roll rapidly. Engage the afterburner, pull the nose down to vertical, and accelerate out. Bear in mind, you need altitude for this. Should the MiG follow close in, you may set the hook. As he commits himself nose low, reduce power, extend speed brakes, and pull up at maximum performance. This should throw the MiG out the bottom. Roll off and drop in on him. If the MiG does not follow close in, do not set the hook. Accelerate out to at least Mach 1.1, descend to low altitude, and gain separation. A moderate 2G roll while descending should be enough to spoil the MiG's tracking solution on the way down. When on the deck, make random reversals to keep him from getting a tracking solution, while you use the F-4's advantage of speed at low altitude to outdistance the enemy. When out of gun range, stay low if you're still within missile range. When you are definitely clear of the MiG, then pull up and re-engage head-on. When a flight of 4 F-4s is attacked by 2 MiGs, the element under attack should separate either by a straight-ahead diving acceleration or by a turn-away from the free element. The free element then quickly sandwiches the attackers. Again, be doubly watchful for additional MiGs in the area. If both friendly elements are under attack, it may be necessary to fight as lone elements until one element destroys his opponent and is thus free to assist the other element. When defending as a lone element, the defensive split is a valuable maneuver to use instead of the last-ditch maneuver. With the MiGs approaching gun range, for example 4,000 feet out, and remember, that is 4,000 feet out from the wingman, and you are unable to force him out of your lethal cone, call for a split. The low man continues his hard turn into the attack, while the high man slides high, gaining separation on the low man. The attackers are then forced to make a choice. Take the low man, take the high man, split, fake at the low man, and then take the high man, or perform the fluid separation. An analysis of past engagements reveals that the MiGs are unlikely to fake or perform a fluid separation. The defenders must be on the alert. If the attackers split, each defender then defends himself and fights alone until he's destroyed his opponent before he can assist the other friendly aircraft. If the attackers take the low man, he continues the hard turn and goes into a diving spiral to gain separation, while the high man zooms up, then drops down to sandwich the attackers once they're line abreast. Should the attackers take the high man, he performs a moderate G roll under, ending in a turn away from the low man. The low man then pulls up and sandwiches the attacker as quickly as possible. It becomes readily apparent that teamwork and radio discipline are mandatory for the defensive split. Proficiency in fluid 4 and air combat tactics comes exclusively from training and practice. This proficiency is the only key to success. Air combat is a deadly game played for the highest stakes in the world. Your life and the life of your buddy. With so much to lose, there is no room for error. The knowledge gained in an aggressive air combat tactics program, combined with the skills developed in air-to-air gunnery training, will provide the tactical fighter pilot the tools necessary to engage and destroy the enemy in the fight for the sky. Good luck and good hunting.